humanity, and the earth. For a time immemorial we have been together, spiraling through the cosmos on our inseparable journeys of growth and expansion. And now as we approach the completion of another great cycle and the turning of an age, as the quickening intensifies and all that we once knew comes into question, humanity begins its entry into the time of revelations. For we are living in a period of tremendous change, where humanity's truths are shifting with exponential rapidity as today's more advanced technologies and awareness are working to reveal the new truths of tomorrow. And just as the perspectives of those who were born 50 or 100 years ago have had to shift to allow for our present version of reality, so too will we be invited to expand our perspectives of what is possible, to allow for the unfathomable changes that will come with the turning of the age and the birth of a new world. Thus it is our intention with this presentation not to tell you of the way things are, for we as unenlightened beings are incapable of knowing the truths that lie beyond our limited dualistic perspective. And so, aware of our limitations, it is our intention herein to merely present some insights that might serve to expand people's perspectives and create room for new possibilities of what could be. For in these shifting times, to know anything is to block the potential for further realizations. In the same way that a glass already full will not allow for more wine, and just as holding on to our limited perspectives of truth, spirituality, and service will keep us from seeing the dawning light of the new world which is currently beyond our comprehension. That said, the perspectives presented herein are not randomly imagined, but rather have been carefully compiled through the meticulous research and reflection upon ancient Gnostic and Taoist texts, as well as an analysis of current events and recognized trends in our global theater. We have said before that the time has come and that the revolution has begun. And now, with the passage of time and the willingness to learn, we stand in the light of our expanded awareness to see that the earth does not require a revolution on the part of humanity, but rather she is lovingly urging our evolution, an evolution that awaits all those who are willing to humble themselves and let go of what they know. For it is only in letting go that one may become open like a child and receive the grace of world-altering revelations. One such revelation may come by considering the subtle dangers of duality that are prevalent within the world's increasingly popular movement towards spirituality, as well as its traditional religious institutions. The sole purpose of all human life is to ascend, to achieve liberation from matter, from ignorance, suffering, and from the wheel of birth and death. Yet today, most of humanity is kept from liberation because it is attached to the illusion of separation that has firmly established itself as a paradigm here on earth. In every moment, this illusion is reflected back to us in the form of various pairs of opposites that also appear to be separate from one another, such as good and evil, right and wrong, friend and foe. Yet each moment we invest ourselves in this illusion of duality. By choosing one of these opposites over the other, we serve to fortify and so perpetuate the world of separation into which we have been born. And as long as we continue to feed this dualistic existence, we will never be able to transcend it. For in this world of duality, the truth that energy follows thought ensures that goodness and evil keep one another alive. This occurs because each time we choose sides on an issue, one aspect is strengthened by our attraction to it, while the other is strengthened by our aversion. Therefore, by choosing sides, which to an unenlightened perception may seem to only empower one aspect of an issue, in fact serves to strengthen both. And thus we may see the very real danger prevalent in today's rising spiritual movement and traditional religions. where many well-intentioned people are focusing on doing good in the world and offering service to others. However, in doing so, many are invoking the ego's sense of doing good, while simultaneously perceiving others to be doing bad, which then fuels the dualistic illusion and indirectly arouses evil. This is why the Buddha taught his disciples to walk the middle path between all pairs of opposites, and why the initiate Paul in the New Testament wrote, "Each time I try to do good, I end up doing evil." Service to others can be a dualistic trap for the limited human mind. It is one of the most difficult snares to recognize because it seems so reasonably loving and selfless. However, divinity does not serve others in the very personal way that humanity thinks. Divinity, once contacted, radiates out in all directions, blessing all alike, for all are one. And here one may understand that true, effective spiritual service is the natural outpouring of love and wisdom from the divinely aligned heart and mind. It is not something that can be planned or achieved by personal will, but rather it is a state of grace where all is seen to have a purpose and a place for which to be thankful and loving. Thus it is through this realization that all of the world's perceived good and evil are serving the divine by providing the opportunity to seek and find truth, that we may realize that we are all truly one. And it is this unified vision of existence that the Bodhisattva Isa was urging his disciples to seek when he said, "When thine eye be single, thy whole body is filled with light." All around the world, there are various groups and gurus within the rising spiritual movement who are testifying that in these shifting times, all we need to do is love. Though this is well and true, a problem arises when this message is delivered to a population whose understanding of love is unenlightened, and therefore dualistic, self-centered, and so often sentimental. For today, there are many well-meaning individuals and organizations in existence where people sit and attempt to send out loving thoughts and energies in order to elevate humankind, to protect it from harm, to put an end to wars, to ring in an era of peace on earth, and even to circumvent the forthcoming necessary geological upheavals. But in reality, human love has never liberated the world, and nor can it ever, for it is only divine love that is capable of providing liberation. The vast majority of New Age and so-called spiritual teachings, channelings, and meditations encourage people to use their personal will to create change within and for themselves, and sometimes for the world as well. Their focus is on personal transformation, as in create your own reality. But by encouraging people to focus upon themselves and the world, and use their personal will to support what they like and change what they don't like, these groups and teachers only serve to feed the illusion of duality. In fact, these spiritual practitioners and so-called masters are actually participating in something even more detrimental than those who are occultly unaware. For by inciting people to polarize themselves en masse towards peace, goodness, light, and love, these well-intentioned but misguided groups are actually synergetically strengthening and empowering the violence, evil, darkness, and hate on the opposite end of the spectrum at a global level, thereby unwittingly exacerbating the already chaotic and desperate condition of this planet. Thus we may see how the road to hell is paved with good intentions, as these well-meaning individuals are leading the masses astray and thereby incurring further karma for themselves and encouraging others whom they attract to their cause to do the same. Such groups are making the pendulum of the polarized illusion swing further and more dramatically from one side to the other, effectively producing more and more dualistic power, momentum, and tension in the world, all of which is actually helping to hasten our planet toward the cataclysmic events that will result as all over the world people align themselves behind the rising forces of light and dark and prepare to strive, struggle, or even fight to make others live according to what they believe is right. We have been warned that in these shifting times, many false prophets will arise and deceive many people, and thus considering the tremendous amount of confusion coming from within the spiritual and New Age movements and their leaders, we would say that before looking outwards for direction in these shifting times, one would be well advised to first look inwards and seek the truths that will keep them from being so easily led astray. For there is one mission for each and every life form, one single goal and purpose, and that is to seek the truth and so be free. Thus it is through the humble and selfless seeking of truth that one may open their heart to the one life in all, and thus be free from the illusion of separation, along with the ego's attachment to what it perceives as right and wrong in the world. Free from such attachments, one is liberated from their desire to change the world according to their personal will, for they see that all is perfect as it is, as reflected in the words of the Taoist sage Lao Tzu, who said, "The world is sacred, it can't be improved." Thus it is with this understanding that one learns to relinquish my will for thy will, that is, the divine will. And it is with this prudent focus that one begins the process of being initiated into true spirituality, and so becomes both a recipient and a servant of the liberating truth. For it is our selfishness and our ignorant use of free will that has brought us collectively into our present state of existence. Therefore, perhaps it is only by a 180-degree reversal, through selflessness, through the complete and utter surrender of ourselves and our personal will to the divine will of the Tao, that we may allow the forces of true change and redemption to work through us and liberate us completely from the unholy illusion of this world. And here it is essential to consider that one of the greatest obstacles, if not the greatest obstacle, that stands in the way of real spiritual unfoldment and realization is an absence of humility and the honest admission as to how little the separate self really and truly knows of the higher life, its purpose, goal, and the inevitable result for the end of this major world cycle. Also consider that any thoughts of "I am a teacher," or "I can heal others," or "I know the way home and can therefore lead others," actually prevents the Divine Spirit from working through us. Because I is not the Divine Spirit. It is at best a temporal vehicle and agent of the one life, as are all separative entities. We then, at best, can only offer others a very distorted version of the truth. And this is why it has been said that all who wish to return to truth and so partake again of the original freedom must first become like a babe, both humble and empty of self, for it is only in the state of childlike openness that we may be filled with the living light of truth. And because an empty cup does not contain anything, it does not therefore proclaim to know anything, for all true knowing comes from the divine. Thus, allowing the light of truth to enter one's emptied cup is to become aware of the divine will. And it is thus that the calling to assist in the manifestation of the divine plan for these important times on earth is registered by the seeker, and consecrated service to that plan then becomes natural and spontaneous. This is the beginning of freedom, and the seeker of truth is then initiated into life's mysteries and is given progressively greater spiritual responsibility. And it is in receiving and then offering what is received that one becomes the humble servant of all, proceeding forth not by efforts of self-will, but by the providence of divine grace. To many who are sensing the quickening on earth today, it is becoming clear that two world perspectives are now rising, in contrast of one another. And this inevitable division, which has and will always occur in the cycle of humanity's evolution, has been called by the prophets the time of the Great Separation, or the sifting time. This sifting time not only includes the division of souls, but of all life and all energy on earth into two vibrational fields. And for all those who are awakening to this reality, it is now becoming quite obvious that humanity shall, very soon, be required to make a distinct choice of which perspective we choose to embrace. For we have today arrived at the crossroads, and the time of reckoning, and the choice that remains to humanity is, will we continue to live for and exalt the self, and therefore bind ourselves to this world's illusion of separation and duality? Or will we choose to move on to the new world and its lessons by surrendering ourselves in service to the divine will and awakening to our oneness and equality with all? Though our age-old programming and dualistic perceptions of this division will cause many to perceive this as the separation of good and evil, or heaven and hell, it is more accurate to consider this as an opportunity, where those who have had enough of the lessons that are made available in the present dualistic world choose to let go of their attachments to it, and those who still wish to explore the lessons of the self, the material and the struggle of opposites, are free to do so until such a time that they wish to explore lessons of another reality. Hence, the suggestion of this division need not arouse fear or pride, as it is all to be a matter of a person's choice of where they wish to be, to do the appropriate learning in service of the divine. And in keeping with the cyclic nature of our universe, if the choice to move on to other lessons does not seem prudent during the closing of this Earth cycle, the choice will come again either on Earth or some other planet at some other time. That said, the Great Separation is indeed intensifying in the world today, as approaching high vibrational cosmic rays are pushing all unresolved karma and darkness to the surface from within each one of us, thereby giving us the opportunity to heal our dualistic perspectives of light and dark in relation to ourselves and the world. And like a cancer in the body, the disease of the world will continue to rise and become increasingly intense until we stop running from the darkness, face it, and learn what lessons it has to reveal. For it is a dangerous and most erroneous belief amongst many in today's spiritual and New Age movements that all we need to do is focus on the positives, such as, if we concentrate on the light, we will see the light, and if we focus on the dark, we will see the dark. But what so few people understand today is that it is not what we focus upon or not that matters, so much as the why. And if we honestly examine why we avoid looking at the shadow side of life, then most will find that it is because we are in denial and therefore fearful of it. And it is in fact the energetic charge of our fear that is partially responsible for keeping the darkness so very alive in our world today. Thus, supporting the phrase that it is always darkest before the dawn, we shall find that life on Earth is and will continue to become more challenging in the months and years approaching the shift, as the darkness which has been ignored or denied for so long surfaces with a strength that demands our recognition and reconciliation. One of the most common misconceptions that has been woven into the very fabric of our reality through the world's religions, governments, and global media is the belief in an epic final battle between the forces of good and evil known to many as Armageddon. All across the planet, a total of nearly 3 billion Christians, Muslims, and Jews await the prophesied return of the Messiah, or Mahdi, who it is believed will lead the righteous in a battle against the opposing forces of evil, which it is believed will be led by the Antichrist. Though it is possible that there will be an epic global conflict as tensions rise on the world stage and people align themselves behind their governments and their gods, what most people don't understand is that the real Armageddon is a battle that can only be won inside each one of us and not on a battlefield. For one of the greatest secrets of our time is that the Antichrist is not a single evil person, but rather it is that dualistic and divided consciousness that separates us from each other and divinity. And it is by continually looking out to the world for an enemy or threat, rather than looking inside ourselves, that humanity is kept from seeing and therefore healing the true danger of its ignorance and duality. And thus the existing cycle of suffering and separation is perpetuated. This inner victory will be won by those who, through a selfless attitude and a humble yearning for the truth in which there is no separation, open their hearts to the one life in all, and so relinquish their personal will and desire to change the world so that they may surrender themselves to the humble service of the divine will. And it is for this reason that authentic spiritual practices such as Buddhism, Taoism, yoga, and certain native spiritual traditions teach us to be aware and equanimous with the way things are. And thus, as the dramatic yet divinely orchestrated world events peak, the prophesied event of the return will cause the realities of the two contrasting world perspectives to separate, thus sounding that the time has come for humanity to make its choice.
I am ready for the next step in humanity's evolution.
And now we must seek to unite with others.
The time has come to live for each other.
Ever since humanity acquired the knowledge of good and evil, everything born into this dualistic world has been required to adapt itself to the illusory laws dividing time and space, laws of isolation and opposition, perpetuating the ongoing cycle of birth, death, and suffering. These laws, which are expressions of duality or antichrist consciousness, present the greatest obstacle to humanity's quest for liberation. Although such spiritual seeking is met with little success in today's world because of the extreme difficulty in reaching integration in a vibrational field that is as psychically polluted as that of the Earth, during the revolving course of the cosmic cycles, there arise periods when great redeeming energies return to the Earth, allowing the process of integration to proceed more easily and rapidly. All around the world there exist ancient cultures and wisdom keepers whose texts and teachings reveal knowledge of such periods having happened in the past, while some even hold prophecies telling of the impending return of these forces of salvation. However, here again it is essential to understand that this returning Redeemer is not a physical personality of majestic stature residing somewhere outside the dense material world, but is essentially an impersonal divine unifying consciousness manifesting itself as light, love, and wisdom in a field of cosmic rays emanating from the center of our galaxy. Thus, the return actually refers to the Earth's cyclic re-entry into this higher vibrational field, at which point we are anointed by its divine light and influence. And it is because of this divine anointing that the return is widely referred to as the return of Christ, which, stemming from the Greek word Christos, means the anointed one. Thus we may see that Christ consciousness is not exclusively available to Jesus, but is available to every human being who experiences the infinite, changeless reality that lies at the core of each one of us. That said, those who out of fear cling to the idea of Jesus the man as a means for personal salvation will thereby bind themselves to the old dualistic world by the quality of their own thought and desire, while those who look within to the unifying perspective of Christ consciousness find the path that leads to deliverance. Of the many ancient cultures and wisdom keepers that speak of the returning light of transformation, one that is becoming increasingly vocal and present in the world today is that of the Mayans. For years, popular media has wrongfully insinuated that the Mayan December 21, 2012 date predicts the end of the world. This assertion has been based on the fact that on that day we will see the convergent completion of 9 of the Mayans' 24 calendars, including what the grandfathers call a return to the beginning of the 5,200-year long count calendar and the completion of a great 26,000-year cycle. To say that these completions mean the end of the world would be as erroneous as proclaiming doom every New Year's Eve. For these are huge wheels of time that turn, and like our current calendar, when its 12-month cycle is completed, it simply begins again. That said, the completion of the long count calendar is a unique event, and one which will bring with it not the end of the world, but the birth of a new reality. And it is through the proper understanding of the cosmic events that accompany the completion of these great cycles that one may learn how we will be given the opportunity to transcend this world of duality and be reborn into a new experience of unity consciousness and reintegration with the divine. The long count calendar is based on a 26,000-year cycle known as the precession of the equinox. This cycle measures the time that it takes for our Earth, which spins at an angle like a top, to complete one full rotation of its wobble. And it is this wobble that causes our view of the constellations to shift by 1 degree every 72 years, creating what are known as the Astrological Ages. Thus, as a result of this gradual changing of our night sky, the event that we will witness at the end of the long count calendar on December 21st, 2012, is that when the sun rises on the eastern horizon, it will appear to have moved into the center of our galactic plane. Though approximations of this alignment have been occurring once a year since 1980, with an exact alignment in 1998, 2012 will mark the first time in 26,000 years that the Sun will appear to touch what is known as the dark rift that snakes its way along the galactic equator. The dark rift is a series of overlapping non-luminous molecular dust clouds that appear as a dark lane that divides the bright band of the Milky Way lengthwise. According to Mayan cosmology, this great rift with which the Sun will align on December 21st, 2012, and take some 20 years to travel through, is a unique area of our night sky, which the Mayans believe is responsible for bringing spiritual rebirth. As a result of this extraordinary alignment, the Sun and the plane of the ecliptic would then appear for the first time in 26,000 years to cross between the dark rift and an area of the galactic plane known as the Mayan sacred tree. This cosmic cross, traced in the sky, is considered to embody the sacred tree of life and is known to all of the world's spiritual traditions. This synchronistic return of the tree of life at the time that the Sun aligns with the dark rift marks the return to the beginning of the long count calendar and the birth of a new humanity. For the Mayans believe that sometime around December 21st, 2012, our Sun, which acts like a lens, translating rays from the cosmos and then radiating them onto the planets in our system, will align with a sacred portal hidden in the darkness of the Great Rift. At the time of alignment, our Sun will radiate the ultra-high frequency rays from the rift onto the Earth, so marking the prophesied return of the anointing light and the long-awaited day of deliverance. As the quickening intensifies during the approach of the imminent day of return, the global situation will become increasingly intense as the forces of darkness lash out in their final attempt to preserve the world of duality. This is a typical occurrence at the close of each world cycle, and one that necessarily precedes the return of the anointing light to the earth. The purpose of such timely intensity is to provide humanity the necessary challenges and trials that will allow us to purify ourselves by reflecting on the choices that we've made throughout our lives and during these times of great change. For in this period of purification, the mirror of truth will be held up for all to see at last, what we have become and which master we have truly served. And when humanity is left with no other choice but to face the truth and ourselves in utter honesty, to look, to see, and to weep in genuine repentance, then can love open our hearts and reveal to us the way of true devotion and holiness. It is thus through humble surrender that each person is given the opportunity to hasten their own spiritual growth and simultaneously transition into a bright new era. During the time of increasing intensity before the return, people will seek deliverance from the troubles of the world and will hear two voices calling them to salvation. Though the voices may sound similar and use the same words of unity, truth, and service, one will offer a form of salvation that addresses the immediate symptoms of humanity's suffering and promises to preserve a degree of comfort and security within a familiar system, where people are divided by the old world perspectives of good and evil, rich and poor, strong and weak. This voice will speak to people's fears and to their desires to protect and preserve the self. And the other voice, which will probably be much quieter and coming from within, will offer humanity salvation from the source of its suffering. This it will do by gently beckoning all those who are willing to surrender their concepts of self and the world. We will be asked to relinquish our beliefs of what is right and wrong, possible or not, and thereby free ourselves of all knowing, along with all desires and ambitions, so that we may become empty cups fit to receive the grace and light of truth. And this voice, rather than speaking to our fears, will speak to our courage, inviting all those with the love and wisdom to see where the familiar path of fear and self-service leads, to take a courageous step down the untrodden path of self-surrender into an unknown reality where everything, through its process of purification and the divine light, has come to a perpetual awareness of its oneness with all. And thus, within this new reality, with its adjusted laws and perspectives, the quest for truth will continue. So how might the return affect our reality and allow for humanity's deliverance? Again, as unenlightened beings, it is impossible for us to know exactly how, what, or when things will unfold in the coming months and years prior to the return. However, with humble thanks to the dedicated work of other seekers and sages, we can offer an educated example of what sort of events could occur, leading to a deliverance event for humanity. As mentioned previously, it is always darkest before the dawn, and thus we can see and expect increasingly intense events on Earth as our planet moves from the outer regions of the higher vibrational Christed field into the full light of its inner core. As our planet continues its journey, the higher vibrations pour into the subtle energy fields of our planet, causing the coarse, blocked vibrations of old ingrained delusions and selfishness to be exposed and cleansed. Thus, all anxieties, fears, and obsessions with self that obscure the light of spirit are necessarily surfacing in our lives and personalities today. And as we move towards the full light and higher vibrations of the inner Christed field, the effects of surfacing darkness will be experienced by greater numbers in increasing intensity, thus raising psychic tensions across the face of the planet. Though to humanity this may seem like a very bad time indeed, the forces of darkness, sensing the end of their rule, will then implement their final desperate attempts to reinforce humanity's concern for self, and thus its bondage to the world of duality. And these will be very trying times, during which much intelligent research, which we will post on our webpage, shows the possibility of global financial collapse, a false viral pandemic, and the declaration of martial law. There is also strong evidence that we will see the start of World War III, which seems will be sold to the world as a holy war. Gas prices will rise, and food and medicine will become extremely scarce. And thus, with our dreams, ambitions, and our very lives under the potential threat of extinction, we will be coerced into making a choice, such as, would you agree to receive a microchip implant that will allow your movements and ID to be tracked, in exchange for food, money, medicine, and the right to continue working for our current system of governance and authority? Or would you rise up to oppose the system that you believe to be responsible for the state of the world? Or will you humbly acknowledge the part that we have all played in making this world what it is and seek another way? Though to anyone who has not done the research, the possibilities presented herein might seem like a sensationalist Hollywood film, there are indications that the storyline will get even more unusual. Some research even indicates that the drama that is being played out on Earth will be brought to its dualistic extreme when, amidst all the war, death, pestilence, and famine, the forces of darkness stage a false second coming of a Christ figure. This event, referred to in the Bible as the false rapture, will display signs and wonders so great as to deceive, if that were possible, even the elect. It is thought by some that this second coming might resemble the Bible's version of the fall of Babylon, as portrayed in the book of Revelation, while others believe that it could be staged to look like the arrival of a benevolent alien race, who, forming links with our world governments, popular spiritual leaders, and movie stars, would perform miracles and tender promises to ease the pains of humanity by whisking the elect, or chosen ones, away to safety, thus saving them from the dark evil of the world. All those who have chosen in fear to leave the earth and avoid facing the darkness and reconciling the duality within themselves will have missed the opportunity for deliverance that will come at the moment of the true and blessed return. Again, it is impossible for us to know what the moment of return will look like. But respecting the power of story and imagination as the means by which we may navigate the unknown, we offer the following with the intention of inspiring people to empty their cups of what they believe is true in order to allow for the inpouring of new revelations. That said, it is widely accepted in both the realms of science and spirituality that the human body, comprised mostly of water, is a conductor of sound, light, and information, all of which travel through our bodies as vibrations. Aware of this, we may now imagine that as the higher vibrations of the Christ consciousness move through us, they will cause our bodies to resonate with their frequency. Thus, as our vibrations rise and match the never-before-experienced frequency levels of the cosmic rays, we will be able to perceive higher levels of the electromagnetic spectrum, at which point we will be able to perceive all of the sounds, images, and entities that exist within our newly achieved range of frequency. Vibrating at this level, the spirits of the dead may be seen and heard, rising to meet the coming dawn, as humanity expands its senses and consciousness to perceive the forgotten fifth element of ether, that which connects us all. Here, too, we may perceive the parallel realms of the astral planes and share encounters with mythical beings, all of whom will attend us and the rest of humanity as our increasing frequency brings us all closer to a collective experience of oneness. As we reach the peak of frequency, the voices of others that we have begun to hear in our heads will rise in numbers and climax at the point when we hear all the thoughts of creation and experience all actions as if they were our own. So too may it seem like all the events of these lives are happening at once, and that all places are this place. As one may imagine, this expanded perspective of oneness could be quite an intense experience. And for those who choose to hold on to their knowledge of what is and is not possible, such events will threaten to shatter their psyches, as every sense is simultaneously overloaded. Thoughts of good or evil will give rise to those of their dualistic opposites and attract like energies that further threaten the traveler's ability to stay safe and sane. And here we will have a choice, to either clutch to the banks of that raging river and be dashed against the rocks, or to simply let go and surrender to the roar and the flow. Some will try to hide from this experience. Some will try to escape it. Some will welcome it. Some will recognize it. And some will have known all their lives that the end would be like this, exactly like this. As the truth of oneness, followed by divine love, returns to our ailing planet, those who love the truth and who are therefore consecrated to serving the truth without compromise or self-concern will greatly rejoice at the shattering of the illusion of separation. And when at long last humanity is awakened to its oneness with the earth and all living things, we will raise our voices as one and join the eternal song of the universe. Have faith, for we are awakening as one.